Howdy y'all, this is Red Wolf in continuing a continuance of a continuance. I want to talk a little bit more about like peeling bark and stuff like that, show a couple different methods for it. The first one I'm going to show is very historically inspired one, using these kind of chisel cut sticks as bark spuds or peelers on here. This is scalable. You can use stuff like this shaved up for like really big versions of this, all kinds of different stuff. I'm gonna go a little bit more modern with it. The plan here is really just to harvest as much of the bark as I can. I'm going to use some of it for lashing. I'm going to save some of it for hopefully cordage making. I'm definitely going to be happy, if nothing else, to just have a crap ton of bird's nest material available. And peeling the logs, while it might make them, you have to worry about if they're in the sun, it might make the logs dry out a little too fast and split. But you also don't have to worry about bugs and stuff getting under the bark and ruining the wood, or ants getting into it is easy, a bunch of stuff like that. A lot of reasons to peel them. I guess that's about all I need to say right there. I've got a little crappy tripod. We'll see if it falls over or not. I just threw it together last minute, but I wanted a stand for when I use the draw knife and whatnot. So I'm going to reposition a little bit and burn into how I want to do this with the sticks. Alright, I think we can see me right here. I think I need to pull it down a little bit further. Okay. So first off, here's my log. Here's the end of it. And these have been cut, I think these were cut 5 or 6 days ago. So they're not going to peel as easily as they used to, but it's still spring. They're still going to cut. I mentioned this in my other video, but you can see even up here, there's a difference in the outer bark that's garbage, the inner bark, which is what we're going for. And it's really easy to see the difference between the wood. This little white line over here is the inner bark we're going for. Now you can, show you this real quick. I mentioned on some of these, especially when it's not as knotty, you can come through and cut a big long strip, especially on certain tree species, and it'll just rip straight down that line if you do it right or catch it in the right time. These I'm not so sure. I'm gonna cut a little bit right here and come up around the top. There's a little bit of bark. Just try and get under it to where I can see the raw wood. Well, see, that's coming off in a pretty good little strip right there. So I'm going to follow my own advice. Score this down a little bit further. Just carefully. It's coming a little bit off where I wanted it to. I'm going to go back and try and get that bit teased up and peel that down. Try and get it all caught back up. When you do it that way, it goes from being split out and it'll keep coming back off in one sheet again. And if you don't cut it, what a lot of times ends up happening is when you pull on it, it just tears out. Now my understanding is if I could get big long strips out of this like this, and I don't know how well that knot will do, but we can take this, peel the outer bark off, and it's real simple. I think I've showed this a couple times. You can just kind of bend it up, and it's not as flexible as the part you're keeping, so it'll just peel off, bust up on its own. And anything that comes off is basically stuff you don't want anyway, so not a bad problem right there. And sometimes, well, that one tore up. Sometimes you can get it right here on the edge it'll open like an envelope. You can just pull off a huge sheet of it at once. But basically this right here, you can get this and roll it up and do a little cinnamon roll type thing. And you can really tell when you get to this stuff that doesn't want to go. You can take that and put it up to dry once it's been cleaned off. Tie it through there, put that up and let it dry. You got a strip that you can maybe make a basket weave out of. You got a good strip of cordage, you can take that out, make twine out of it. This right here is enough to make a small bird's nest. Just really useful all the way around. And done that. Now the old school way of doing it is either to score it or find one of these lines. And let me clean that up a little bit. Try and keep these kind of flat-ended, and you can just find a spot on it. You can see it's a little easier to do it when it's angled towards you. You can just get up in here and get it in there, and it'll just start working under there, and eventually, let's see. Get my leg up. It'll just start peeling up. And if I was trying to make a big bark sheet or trying to do this on a big log, what to do, I cut it all the way down and make a seam through here. I'm gonna need one out. One made in the last video. Let's see where's my cut at. You can just take that in, right down that cut. And the cut stops right here. You just go right through there. And that's even continuing past it and get it started. And one of the other advantages of doing it this way is you don't have to worry about tearing your knife up as much. And it feels, it might sound weird, but when you're like trying to doing like trapping and stuff and trying to save the hide on an animal when you get it and skin it out and all that, this feels a lot like skinning like that, fleshing them out. It's really weird just separating it that way. So for those of you nervous about it or anything, that might be an interesting way. Let's see, I've already got this peeled a pretty good amount. And this is way better. I've been practicing, I don't know if you see back there, some Y forks and stuff like that with a bunch of knots in them. They're a lot tougher than this. That ain't too terrible right there. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that one since it's serving as demonstration purposes. Get these good straightaways, and they just want to go. See, right up to the knot. That's a good piece. And that one's less good. You see, it wants to, because of the curve of it, it automatically kind of wants to split there. Me, I'm just going to take that and go ahead and split it best I can. Always one little piece. And let this dry in 2 strips instead of 1. Like we were talking about with this bit earlier. I think it was on this video. When you roll these up, just run you one of these little snaggly bits that comes off through there, and you can do this a little too fast. Knot it or half hitch it. My experience with these is they usually have enough friction for the half hitch to hold. But just a little tie and it doesn't come apart. Now the modern way of doing this, let's see if I got my thing angled. Oh, the more modern way to do it, and one of the few ways that the draw knife, which is this draw knife, has survived, is actually as a debarking tool. Catch it on that top bit. Didn't give me problems all morning, hadn't you? Oh, ideally catch it on the top. Oh, let me reposition. Oh, I make a lot of use of these tripods. I got one leg that's slightly too long, but I wasn't going to use it for any more in this part of the video, so it doesn't particularly matter. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to see if I can get this to come in here and catch the very top. Might just have this backwards. It always does so good until you get the camera rolling. You know? You get this up in here. Alright, I think I got it. Anyway, you get this up in here. I'm having a little bit of trouble catching that very top bit. And this isn't really good for saving the bark, but it's really good for getting a lot of it off in a hurry. Oh, these are originally used for actually shaping the wood. Like I said, a lot of their modern use has merely survived as a bark scrape. To reposition that, can you? Oh Lord. I don't know if you can even see down here. Yeah. I catch it and it makes alright little scrap bits. And I suppose if you're just worried about peeling these efficiently on a timeline, this probably isn't the worst way to do it. I mean, credit where credit's due, especially if you're not planning on using the bark to hold the structure together. But Lord, you begin to wonder if this thing's, no, it ain't dull. It's hitting that pretty good. Just hard to get this bark. It's clean. That's interesting. Honestly, I think I might stick to the sticks and the bark spuds type of a thing. The modern tool that is used like this is called a bark spud. And mention I got two different chisel tips. My experience right so far has been the more straight cut is really good for going around, either getting it started. And it seems to be particularly good for pushing in, go around the tree. But this one seems to be pretty good. It just, you get it in, it's just tearing it up. A lot of people get on me or ask me occasionally why I bother with the old school stuff, and the answer is just that sometimes the old school stuff just works, dog. I can't argue that that was quicker than using the draw knife. Just kind of interesting. Well, anyway, that's what I got. This is probably going to go in my either survival, or at some point I'm going to do a Now that I can walk, I can actually do some of my living history stuff. This will probably end up in the living history, what do you call it, playlist. I was going to wear more of my old-timey stuff today, but I put it all in the wash before I remembered I was going to make this video with it. So, small mistakes here and there. It is really effective. Not surprising. I'm not going to pretend like I'm just always an expert. I just know stuff that works and stuff that you don't hear about. And I don't mind being wrong on the internet, just as long as we're talking about stuff before we forget it. And y'all know a better way, or y'all know some different ways to shape some stuff, or got anything that you think would be useful or want to see tested against it, I'm always looking for a way to do everything proper or efficiently. And this has worked a lot better than I expected it to. So until next time, appreciate y'all.